What's up guys, welcome to the Chess Giant. This is Solomon Riddell, and today I thought I'd give you Ponziani Opening players a little video on how to play against the Romanishin Variation, as it's the 5th most popular response for black at the Master and Grandmaster level. Now the Ponziani itself starts off with white playing e4, and against e5, we're now going to go with the main option of knight f3 attacking that centralized pawn, but now against knight c6, we're going to go with a more rare but underrated chess opening option of c3 with the Ponziani Opening, looking to prepare this d4 push. Now on this channel we've covered moves like d5, f5 with the Ponziani Countergambit, and knight f6 looking to immediately attack our pawn on e4. These are all considered to be main lines in the Ponziani, and against these variations we really do need to be prepared for the chess opening theory and also learn the tricks and traps that can help us win games fast. But what do we do against a move like bishop e7 with the Romanishin Variation? It's not one of the forceful lines like the Ponziani Countergambit, but black simply playing solid. They're not trying to attack us or create immediate counterplay, but simply develop their pieces. What do we do with this? Do we attack like there's no tomorrow? Do we develop our pieces? Do we keep the tension in the center or just trade down? Answering these questions is the goal of today's video, and starting off against bishop e7, just as we prepared with c3, we're going to continue to expand in the center of the board with d4. And this really puts the pressure on black on what they're going to do with this pawn on e5. Is black going to take the pawn on d4, or is black going to play a move like d6 and try to keep their pawn structure solid? Well, if black does take the pawn on d4, we're simply going to take back with c takes d4. And notice here, if black plays a move like knight f6, we're going to play d5, kicking that knight on c6 to a very awkward square like a5, b4, or b8. So really here, black does need to play d5 if they want to have any chance in this game, trying to establish some kind of presence in the center. But now we're simply going to take that pawn on d5, and now black has a couple options. They can play knight b4, looking to take the pawn with the knight, or even take back with the queen. But against this, we have knight c3 attacking that centralized queen, gaining a tempo. Idea being, if we move like queen h5, we're going to play d5, looking to steamroll black with attacking that knight. And if queen a5, yet again, we have d5 kicking that knight back to a square like b8, in which case we're just going to naturally develop with bishop c4, getting our bishop out and defending that pawn on d5. And here, if we move like knight f6, we can castle kingside, continue with a move like rook e1, and honestly, what else do you want in a position? We have very nice active pieces on c3 and f3 with our knights. Our bishop on c4 is solid, defending our pawn on d5, which is really making things hard for black in this position. An active rook on e1, we can continue with moves like bishop d2, or even centralize our queen on d4, and white is simply better here. So y'all, against the move queen takes d5, we're just going to play knight c3, continue with d5, naturally develop our pieces, and we're just playing chess. White has a very fun middle game there. What about knight b4, looking to take the pawn with their minor piece? Well, here we can just continue with bishop b5 check, attacking the king. Now notice here, if black plays a move like c6, we're just going to take that pawn, and we're going to be up one pawn at move 7 in the game. And if king f8 is played, well, black has a king on f8. So the best move here is bishop d7. And in this case, we can simply take that bishop off the board. Really what we're doing here, guys, is just getting rid of that bishop and then throwing our knight into e5, attacking that queen. Idea being, after queen takes d5, we can castle kingside. And notice here, if a move like rook d8, it really doesn't matter what black plays. We're going to continue by playing this key knight c3 idea. Some of you may be wondering, wait a second, why can't black just take the pawn on d4? But the whole idea here is that following queen e2, we have a big advantage in development. I mean, let's say black plays a move like knight f6, just trying to castle their king to the king side. Well, this actually turns out to be a big mistake, because we now have rook d1 attacking the queen, and following queen b6, we can snatch that rook off the board. Notice here, if king takes d8, we have knight takes f7 with check, followed by winning that rook. And if bishop takes d8, we have knight g6 check, attacking the king. And yet again, we're going to say thank you for that rook. So y'all, that covers what to do against e takes d4, in which case we're simply going to take back with our c-pawn, threatening to play d5. And if black takes our pawn and then immediately plays d5, we're going to take that pawn off the board, and we're just playing chess. White has a very nice game there. Now what happens here if black plays the move d6, just trying to keep their pawn structure solid? What do we do in a situation like this? Do we keep the tension in the center of the board between both of these pawns? Do we capture the pawn on e5? Do we play d5, kicking this knight? I personally really like the move bishop b5, pinning that knight on c6 to the king on e8. And most of the time here, because of our potential d5 and d takes e5 ideas, black is going to play bishop d7. But what happens if black just plays a move like knight f6? Well, at first sight, it may seem as if white can just play d5 and win this piece on c6. But the issue here is a6. Whole idea being, if we take the knight on c6, we lose our bishop. And notice here, if we play bishop a4, trying to keep the pin on c6, black can play b5, yet again attacking our bishop. Now, if we move our bishop back to a square like c2, black has knight a5, and if we take the knight on c6, it's true. Following b takes a4 and queen takes a4, we are up a pawn in this position, and our queen is defending both of these pawns, but the truth is that white cannot hold on to these pawns forever, or if we do, black is going to get a huge attacking edge. I mean, here black can simply castle kingside, and following us castling kingside, black can now play a move like queen e8, and now if we play a move like rook e1, trying to give this pawn some more reinforcement, we now see the move bishop b7. Whole idea being we can't take that bishop off unless we want to lose our queen. And the very next move, black's going to take that pawn on c6. And white here really doesn't have any advantage at all. In fact, I think black might have the slight edge here. Instead of playing rook e1 and defending that pawn, if we see that this bishop b7 idea is coming and play a move like queen c4, again, just trying to hold on to our extra pawn, well, now we see bishop e6, forcing that queen back to a4 if we want to hold on to that pawn on c6. But now black can play knight h5. They're going, look, you can keep your pawns. Keep your pawn on c6, keep your pawn on e4. We're going to play f5 and look to attack your king. And if you plug this into a computer program, it's going to tell you that black is simply better because, yes, they are down a pawn, but they have a much more active game and potential attacking chances on the king side. So y'all, following knight f6, when we play d5 attacking that knight and black plays a6, I don't recommend taking the knight, and I also don't recommend playing bishop a4. I think bishop d3 is the best move here for white, and now black has to run away with this knight to a7 or b8. If knight a5 is played, we simply have b4 trapping that knight, and now following a move like knight b8, we can play c4, and honestly from this point on, white's game is very easy. I mean, we can play moves like castling kingside, h3, knight c3, knight d2, bishop e3, and queen d2 ideas are always in the air, and once we do develop our pieces, we can start to expand on the queen side of the board with moves like a3 and b4 looking to support a c5 push, maybe even a4, and b4, we're going to bring our rooks back here for extra firepower, and we're just playing chess. So all that being said, guys, against a move like knight f6, I recommend playing d5, and against a6, bringing our bishop back to d3, forcing that knight back, playing c4, and we're going to have a very nice center and a very nice and easy middle game position, in which case we're just going to naturally develop our pieces. Now, what happens if black plays the move bishop d7? This is honestly the move that you're going to see most of the time, the most popular option by far at the grandmaster level. Whole idea being that even though knight f6 is okay, white does have some potential d5 and d takes e5 ideas. In this case, I think white should just play castling kingside. Now notice here how I'm okay with keeping the tension in the center of the board. I am in zero rush to take that pawn on e5. If anything, this is a hard position for black, because if black ever does take our pawn on d4, we can simply take back with our c-pawn, and our pawns are completely controlling this fifth rank. So following us just continuing to develop, black shouldn't take that pawn on d4 and just play a move like knight f6, attacking our pawn on e4, and against this we can now play rook e1. And following castling kingside, I think this is part of the reason why the Romanishin variation is so popular. I mean, at first sight, it looks like a very cramped and awkward position for black, and it is pretty cramped, but there are some potential counterplay opportunities, especially following knight bd2. I mean, this just looks like a good natural move, bringing our knight into the game, but the issue with this is black can now play knight takes d4. What on earth is going on? Well, the whole idea here is that if we take the bishop on d7, black can play knight takes f3 with check and then take our bishop back, and they're simply up a pawn. There's a ton of different variations here, but black is better in every single one of them. This includes knight takes d4, in which case black can take the pawn on d4, and yeah, if black takes our bishop on d7, we can take the pawn on d4, evening out the material, getting a very nice center in this game. However, the issue is that black can play d takes c3, another intermediate move, now attacking both our knight on d2 and the bishop on d7. And here, if we play a move like bishop b5, getting our bishop out of there, black can take the knight on d2, and following bishop takes d2, we're simply down a pawn. So for you Ponziani opening players, keep in mind, if you do see this setup from black, they are probably hoping for you to play knight d2, in which case they can play knight takes d4. Because of this, I think bishop a4 is the best option so that this bishop is now protected. And now the very next move, we can play knight bd2. I mean, now if the knight takes on d4, we can just take the knight. And if bishop takes a4, we simply trade off. We are up a piece. So this no longer works for black. And they're just going to have to play a move like rook e8. And now black's position truly is cramped. We can continue with a move like knight f1. Whole idea being that we want to bring that knight to g3. And following bishop f8, we can continue with h3. We're going to continue to improve the positioning of our pieces with moves like bishop b3, attacking f7, or even bishop c2 in Ruy Lopez type fashion, defending that pawn on e4. We can continue with options like bishop e3, queen d2, getting our rook involved. And if black ever does take that pawn on d4, we're going to take back with our c-pawn. And yet again, we are completely controlling the center of the board. Black really has no counterplay here, and I would pick white every single time. Thanks for watching today's video. If you'd like to learn the theory behind the Ponziani opening as a whole, click the video to the left. If you'd like to learn the top 4 Ponziani opening traps, click the video to the right. Leave a comment below to let me know what other videos you'd like to see covered on this channel. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.